I learned the truth the same day my sister tried to erase me. She did it with a smile and a notarized form, and she thought I wouldn't read the fine print. My name is Alina Morels. I'm 36 years old, and until last year, I worked as a compliance analyst for a regional healthcare network based in Phoenix, Arizona. My job was boring to most people: audits, vendor reviews, internal controls, but it taught me one essential rule of survival: nothing dangerous happens loudly. Real damage is done quietly, with paperwork, signatures, and plausible explanations. My older sister Vanessa never understood that I learned those lessons early, watching our parents run a small trucking company into the ground through harmless shortcuts after they died. Vanessa inherited the house. I inherited the debt, or at least that's what I was told. For 10 years, I paid my share without question, sent money every month, trusted that my sister, the one with the MBA, the polished manners, the PTA presidency, was handling things fairly. Then, one Tuesday morning, HR called me into a glass-walled office and asked if I had been arrested recently. I hadn't. They slid a document across the table anyway. It was a civil filing claiming I had falsified expense reports, misused company funds, and demonstrated concerning cognitive lapses. The filer? Vanessa Cruz. Acting as my financial guardian, she had petitioned a county court claiming I was mentally unfit to manage my affairs and had already notified my employer. I sat there blinking, feeling the floor tilt under me. We hadn't argued. She hadn't warned me. She had simply decided I was inconvenient. That afternoon, I pulled the filing from the county database and read it twice. Then a third time. She claimed I had agreed to let her manage my finances after a breakdown 5 years earlier. She attached documents, signatures, dates, my name, written in my handwriting but not written by me. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. Vanessa had underestimated one thing: I don't panic, I verify. I requested certified copies of everything she filed. I pulled my own bank records going back a decade. I compared timestamps, metadata, ink patterns. By midnight, I knew exactly what she'd done. By dawn, I knew exactly how to prove it. Vanessa thought this was about control. She thought this was about money. She didn't realize she had handed a compliance analyst a live case with herself as the subject. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got, and the clearer it became that this wasn't impulsive, it was planned. Vanessa had refinanced the house 3 years earlier using a power of attorney she claimed I signed during treatment. The loan proceeds never touched joint expenses. They went straight into a shell LLC registered in Nevada, managed by her husband's cousin. The so-called guardianship petition wasn't just about humiliating me. It was about insulating herself before I noticed the money was gone. I mapped every transaction on a timeline the way I'd done hundreds of times at work. Color-coded and annotated, patterns emerged fast. Every forged document corresponded with a financial move. Every claim of my instability lined up with a withdrawal, a transfer, a lien. I hired an attorney, not a bulldog, but a former clerk who loved procedure and hated sloppy fraud. We let Vanessa keep talking. We let her double down. At the preliminary hearing, she cried on cue, describing my episodes. I stayed quiet. Judges listen harder when you don't interrupt. Then my attorney stood and asked permission to submit supplemental evidence. The room shifted. We presented the metadata, showing the documents were created on Vanessa's office computer. We showed the notary commission that expired 2 years before the signatures. We introduced the loan officer's deposition, where he admitted. Vanessa said I was unable to attend. The judge's tone changed. Vanessa's hands started shaking. The best moment came last, the LLC records. The judge asked Vanessa a direct question about the Nevada entity. She said she'd never heard of it. That was unfortunate, because her digital signature was on the operating agreement, time-stamped and IP-matched to her home network. Court recessed for 10 minutes. When it resumed, the judge dismissed the guardianship petition and referred the file to the state attorney general for investigation. My employer reinstated me the same week with an apology and back pay. Vanessa was indicted 6 months later on charges of forgery, wire fraud, and elder financial exploitation because the house loan had been taken out while our father was still alive, cognitively impaired and unaware. She pleaded guilty to avoid trial. No dramatic outbursts, no screaming, just documents lined up until the truth had nowhere left to hide. People ask me if it felt like revenge, and I always say no because revenge is emotional, and this was precise. Vanessa lost the house. It sold at auction for less than the mortgage, and the deficit followed her into bankruptcy. The LLC was dissolved, its accounts seized. She served 18 months and will spend the next decade repaying restitution. We haven't spoken since the sentencing. I don't need closure from her. I got it from the record. I moved into a smaller place near Tempe, kept my job, and started consulting on fraud prevention for nonprofits who can't afford to learn the hard way. Sometimes, late at night, I think about how confident Vanessa was when she filed that first petition. How sure she was that I'd fold, apologize, disappear. She confused silence with weakness. She thought being the older sister meant she'd always be believed first. What she forgot is that systems remember things people hope will be overlooked. They remember timestamps. They remember sequences. They remember who benefits. The day after her plea, I went to the county recorder's office and pulled the final judgment myself. I like to read outcomes the same way I read beginnings carefully. I framed nothing. I posted nothing online. I went to work. That's the part people don't like in stories. The quiet afterward, but that's where real power lives. Balance isn't loud. It doesn't gloat. It just corrects the ledger. Vanessa tried to take my name, my job, my credibility. In the end, all I took from her was the opportunity to keep lying. And once that was gone, the rest collapsed on its own.